Hello everyone, welcome to SAP Technomaniac. In this video series, we will talk about OData. What is OData and what all are the different approaches are there we can create the OData service from SAP system. Code-based approach using the CDS views, using the REP programming model. And what all are the versions of the OData service V2 and V4 and how to create those V2, V4 version based on your current system availability. But in this video, we'll start with very basic what is REST, what is API, and how the OData is RESTful API. These things we will talk, and then we will pick up from there and we will go. Let's get started. OData, Open Data Protocol. Protocol means set of rules defined to access that particular data. Open means it's open for all the companies, whoever want to use. SAP also using OData service. OData is not SAP product. They neither developed it, they are just using. We will start with the definition as usual. So OData, it is an ISO IEC approved, means this is the entity which approved this OData you can use, and this is one OSS standard that defines the set of best practices and building and consuming RESTful APIs. We will see what is RESTful APIs. I know difficult to understand the definition. First we will see what is RESTful APIs, and that also first we will see what is API actually. So APIs, application programming interface. The APIs are the mechanism, they help two software components to interact with each other using the set of definitions and rules. I will take one simple API example. One of the very popular API which is used by every device, weather API. Even you are using smartphone or mobile, there also we can see the weather information of your current location. Even in our PC or laptop, there also we can see the weather information. But how we are getting this weather information in our PC or in our laptop or in our any application? So what it is happening in behind this particular device, whatever we are using, it is acting as a client. It is requesting its resource through the API. So API is the intermediate between the client and server where the data is reside, or you can say between the user and your resource. The resource, what in this case, what is the resource? The weather data is resource, and who is the user? We are the user, or we are the client, or our application we can say which we are using, that is the client, or we might be using the browser to access that information. And in between something is there who helping us to get the information from that server or resources. So that is APIs. So what is the APIs work? They will get the information from some other system or from the internet, some web server or normal server, to it help us to get that information. But how it will work? It will work using the set of rules which is defined by set of rules or definitions. I will take the normal example. What is when we go to the restaurant, so we order something, and we will see the menu card, and we'll see what dish we want to have. Then based on that we will order, and the waiter will go to the kitchen and get that particular dish to us. In this case, we are acting as a user or client, then waiter is acting as our API we can say, and our safe or kitchen where the things are prepared and the available, that is called as a server. So we are using waiter API to get our dish. That's it. But there are some rules. As I told you, we should have access to that particular dish, or we should have that this should be available in our menu card. So that in the definition, so if in the definition itself it is not available, how you can get? So it should be available, and you should have access to that particular disk. So that is how it will work. So API is the intermediate between the two softwares. Now we will talk what all are the different kind of APIs are available. Based on how API works, it divided into four parts: SOAP APIs, RPC APIs, WebSocket API, and REST API. We will see what is these APIs. We will not go in that much detail, but we will see REST API in detail because OData is a REST API. So what is SOAP API? It's largely based on the XML files and it is used in the past more frequently. And RPC APIs are remote processors calls, means from the client there is a function which is available on the server. Client call that particular function and get the resources. That kind of communication. We can assume like that RFC call in SAP. WebSocket APIs. This is the modern APIs we can say. It's advanced REST APIs which uses the JSON objects and support the two-way communication between the client and server. And the REST API, currently it is the most popular API in the market, which we will see in the detail in upcoming slides. So based on it's categorized in the four parts, and we will see the difference between the REST and SOAP as well, because our SAP creates SOAP APIs as well and REST APIs as well. SOAP, using the function module, we can go SE37 and we can create the WSDL file or web service directly. That is one kind of SOAP API only, and we will create the OData services. These are the REST APIs. So we'll see what is REST APIs first. For an API to become a RESTful API, it should follow this 5 rules. One of the rule is uniform interface. In my normal language, if I tell what is uniform interface, there should be some common language which can be understandable by client and server both. That is the uniform interface. But if I go a bit deeper, means server should send the representation of the data to the client. How it will identify the representation of that particular data using the URI or URL, we can tell. URI is nothing, the combination of URL and URL, that's a URI. And that information, how server should find the representation of the data using the URI based on the request what client send. And once server send this information to the client should have some enough information in the form of metadata apart from the data, so he can modify that particular data in the server as per the requirement, modify or delete the data. So what is metadata? Data about data. So suppose they have server send some employee information. So server along with that employee information, he can tell you can modify that data or not, or how much data it have sent. And for this employee, there are some other information also available where you can find that information. Those all kind of things server can send in the metadata file. So client should have enough information so client can modify and delete the data as per the requirement. Not only that, there are 2 other rules also. Apart from that, that client receive the information about how to process the representation further. It will receive that representation of the data, but it should have some information how should the client can process the data. It can read, it can delete the data, modify the data. Apart from this information, what else the client can do with that particular data? That information client should have. How client will get this information? In form of metadata. And last thing, client also should receive the information, all other related information in the form of hyperlinks or something, that also client should get. Suppose I got the employee data, but for employee data I got the basic detail, but employee financial data I want to get, that I further an employee financial data or employee back history data, some other data, employee related other data I also have in the server, that also I want to get as a client. But that should be I should get in form of some hyperlinks or something that will be also available in the metadata file. So basically this uniform interface will tell the server should send the representation of that particular data based on the request from the client that will come in form of the URI, and it should be enough so client can understand that particular information. It should send along with data, it should send metadata as well. That is uniform interface. And one liner, if somebody want to explain, that should be some common language in between server and client, they both can understand. That is the uniform interface. Now this is the first constraint about the API. If API want to become the RESTful API, it should follow this uniform interface rule. The RESTful API should be in such a way both client and server that can understand, and this API should contain the, apart from data, it should contain the metadata, so client can perform lot of operation on that particular data. And apart from that, that data should come in form of URI from the server, in form of the when the client is request, in form of URI it will request. So these are the best first principle of the RESTful API. This is bit difficult. Other one was very simple. So second one is the statelessness. Statelessness means the server will never store the information about the client. That is the straightforward thing. Means whenever the client sends some client, suppose client said I want to what will be the result of 5 plus 5, server just calculate and do the processing, it will send the 10. That's it. It will not store the information who, just it will who, if next time client again ask for the 5 plus 5 equal what is the 5 plus 5, again it will send the 10. That's it. It will not think like that. It will already ask before. It will not, older data it will be not having regarding the older request, it will be not having any detail in the server. Just it will get the request and reply whoever ask, based on they should have authorization obviously. It will respond to particular request. That's it. So it will not store any information regarding client, how many time it asked for this particular information or not, and how I should say based on the older request it can't perform anything new. So basically server in simpler form, it will not store any information about the client. Once it send the information, that's it, nothing done. If you next time again it will ask, again it will send. Then if you suppose I want to delete something, I clicked on 1000 time delete, it will each time it will, first time it will delete, it will send the report, next time it will try to delete, next for all other requests I will get the error, it is already deleted. So that is independent, but it didn't think like that you already asked for the deletion, that is the reason I'm not able to delete. Not so, it think independently. As soon as you get the request, it will just give the response. Basically statelessness means server will not store the information regarding the request whatever the client is asking, all the request is. Okay. And next is layered system. So whenever the client asks for the information to the server through the API, so it should not think it is always talking to the server. There can be lot of intermediate systems before the before the actual server response. It can be possible. Suppose there is some authorization system, client server, before the server main system there is some other system which is checking that particular API request is having the access to data or not. Then further system they are having some other data, in other system they are having other data. So final data, final server, it should not think like that we always interact with the final server. That can be the layered kind of system can be possible in RESTful API. So it can be there, it can't be there. So in a layered system architecture, the client can connect to authorization intermediate between the client and server, and it will still receive the response from the server. So it can be possible, there can be the multiple layer authorization is already there, there are 3-4 servers there, or there is something else is there in between server and client. That is always possible in the layered system. So there should be layered system. If the particular APIs follows the layered system, then it will call the RESTful API. The third thing, the cacheability. Cacheability means client can store the data. Suppose whenever we click on any URL, first time when we execute that URL, we will get little bit late data due to the all the data we are getting. But when I refresh the data, then second time I will get quickly, because what browser will do, it will case when it will request for the data, it will store the data at the browser itself. So no need to go again cacheable data again and again to the server. So in this case, what the cacheability means, client will store some of the information which is repetitively used. And the most important thing, it should be cacheable. It's whenever the server sends the information, it will send that you can case this particular information if you want, like that. Those information can be cacheable information can be stored in the client, not all the informations. Suppose if I am running one website, and I know I have some website header and footer. In the header and footer, I have some images. I don't want to, for each and every page, I don't want to go to the server and get same images and logos again and again. So what I will do, whenever the server first time it will send the information, it will send this is the logo, this is the image. It is you can, if you want, you can store this image in your client. The client, what it will do, it will store this information. Next time whenever it will go for next page or another request, it will not request for those images, because it have already those images. What is the advantage of that? There will be less network overhead. No need to repetitively ask the same information from the server. But because client have that already that information, so it can reuse that information. That is the reason I am telling, whenever we refresh the data in the browser, sometime we will get the faster that refresh of the page. We will get the data quickly instead of getting the data from the scratch from the server. So that is the reason, if you show in the browser, lot of data, it will cache. So this is the cacheability. So it should follow the cacheability. What is the advantage? It will become little bit faster. Okay. And code on demand. Code on demand means sometimes server what will send along with the data, it will send some code also. Suppose, for example, if I created, it's not always the true, but if I created one form, in the form I have a lot of fields, telephone number is there, name is there, but I know the telephone number is a particular format. So along with the whenever you create the new employee, then you have to enter the telephone number, but you should not enter in the wrong format. So as soon as you enter in wrong format, no need to check each time, go to the server and check this is the format is correct or this is the telephone is correct. First it should be in correct format. That can be done at client side itself. Sometimes we do using the client level client side languages also, but sometimes server also send the information. You have to validate using this code, you have to validate this particular whatever the data is entered correct or not. So code on demand. So whenever the required, we can send the code also at the client side. It's not a mandatory one, but it's optional one, code on demand. So like that, we have this 5 things: uniform interface, statelessness, layered system, and cacheability. Some requests, if follow all the rules, then it become automatic RESTful API. Some API which follow all the rules, it will become the RESTful API. Let's come back to our definition. What is OData? It is an ISO IEC approved OSS standard that define a set of best practices for building and consuming RESTful APIs. Now we know what is RESTful APIs, but this is what is OData? OData is some standard how you should build your RESTful API, how you should consume your RESTful API. Those kind of things, they define some of the rules. Following that rule, if you create the RESTful API, it will become the OData. The RESTful API, the OData is the one of the RESTful API. But for example, Amazon Web Services, they also follow the RESTful APIs. They also create the RESTful APIs. This is for achieving the RESTful API, this is the one way. OData is the one way that if some interface follow, some APIs follow all the rules, it will become automatically RESTful APIs. But RESTful APIs can be created apart from OData, some other interface, like I told you, Amazon Web Services, they also create the RESTful APIs. And OData, in form of OData, we create the RESTful APIs. But when we create the RESTful APIs, we follow the same of whenever we build our RESTful APIs or consume these APIs, we follow some rules. That rules are defined in OSS standard. If you follow those rules and you will create your RESTful APIs or you will create your services APIs, then it will become automatically OData. That's it, nothing else. It's a simple definition. So in this video, we understood what is RESTful APIs, and if you want to create RESTful APIs, what all are the rules it should follow. And in my next video, we will discuss different part of RESTful APIs and what is the in the request, what all are the what all are the different part in the request and what all are the different part in the response. Not only that, before going to SAP system, we need to know these all the things, because many times we go to the interview, these things will be asked by the interviewer, what is RESTful API? If we told OData is the RESTful API, then they will ask, what is RESTful API? First question will be. So we should able to answer. Once you go through this video, I hope so you will be able to answer. Before going to next video, please like this video, share this video with others as well, so they can also learn. With that, thank you and happy learning.